Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Mirko, the podcast where we talk about coffee, but with coffee professionals, and it's not just about coffee. If you're new, I'm grateful that you're here. If you're new, I'm grateful that you're here, and feel free to reshare this as a story and repost it as we try to grow this coffee community family. For all of you who are not new, welcome you back. It's always good to have you. I'm very grateful for being able to share these conversations with all of you, whether it's you re-listen to this podcast or live. This is just going to be just another good time with an amazing coffee professional. And today we have Ben Morrow, and he'll be tuning in with us real soon. So the beautiful part of this is that I wanted to create a quite communicative, quite a community-based podcast. So feel free always to, when you tune in, just drop a hello, where you're from, if you're new, what's up, if you're good. Drop whatever you want on the comment section, as well as questions that you have for our guest or for myself. The goal is just to create a conversation. So I'll flick an invite to Ben. So I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. It's a pretty cold day out in Melbourne, and speaking of Ben, I think he popped in very quickly. Here it is. Yeah, so it's a bit gloomy. We'll see what weather is like where Ben is located.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good.
that's right.
Very, very good. Very, very good. You knew it. Usually people tend to say whatever it is in their country and time zone, but it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, you're in Melbourne though, right?
Yeah.
I usually have a pretty good handle on what time it is there.
And Ben, thank you so much for tuning in and giving us an hour of your precious time. I'm really grateful for it, and I'm really excited to have this chat. So thank you. And firstly, how are you and your family doing with this entire interesting situation?
Yeah, pretty good. You know, the folks are just stuck at home, so it's all right. They're sort of just hanging out. They just got I think like a new dog maybe a year ago, so that's keeping them busy. You know, so that's all right. Friends doing all right as well. It's not too bad.
Summer over there, so that's good to see a bit of sun. It's pretty gloomy, It's horrible here, man.
Yeah, it's been really hot here. It's been like Australia hot.
Australia.
Yeah, I think it was like 36 or 37 degrees yesterday.
Yeah,
so, yeah, I overslept because it was a cool evening. So I got up like half an hour ago.
Nice, perfect timing for your first sip of coffee. Ben, just for some context, could you just start things off, telling us more about how you started your amazing coffee journey?
Sure. Well, I was studying a bachelor in contemporary music at university, and then turns out I was better than that at making coffee. So I sort of eventually got to a point where I was like, well, I might defer my degree and go make some money and see what that's like for a year. Oh, is it? Can't really hear me. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you probably. Yeah.
It must just be the general distortion of my voice.
That's good.
Yeah, so then I started in coffee. I worked at like a cafe bakery. I don't think it exists anymore. And then I moved from there. I got interested in, you know, espresso and specialty coffee. Had a few coffees that I thought were like pretty amazing. And through high school, I also, my high school was just down the road from Veneziano coffee roasters. And people in the years above me worked for them and still do. a few of them. And yeah, so I sort of got interested. Then I, worked for a bunch of different companies. Thought I learned some stuff about coffee, and eventually ended up at St. Ali, and I sort of worked for the St. Ali group for 8-9 years. And yeah, through that I did a whole bunch of competitions. And now I'm in Europe. Yeah, now I own the company. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. We swapped continents, I'm in Australia, you in Europe, but it's great. And I think Fancy Boy says, Mr. Honey, we try our best. Maybe Ben is a bit fancier than me. I think it's amazing, and it's just such a common. I keep finding it through this episode on how often is coffee finding us rather than the way around, and it's amazing how you flipped a degree. You were so certain, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then you ended up in Europe roasting coffee, and competing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I really had planned to be a competitive barista. I knew coffee was something that I really enjoyed, so I was interested in it, and I still am. Every day is just the same thing. I work with like new products, new people. I get to drink some amazing coffee. I'm not bad at roasting, so it's pretty good. Like, I can't
It's good. Yeah. It sounds good. And to give context to the audience, we're going definitely to touch base in a minute about what you're currently doing, obviously in Europe. Going back to your competition career, well, you can share your results. That's fine.
Oh yeah,
I know. Well, if you don't want, it's fine. But you've been doing well, and also,
yeah,
it's like competing is not a stroll in the park. Like mentally, physically, even financially. What would you say?
I think it depends what competition you decide that you want to compete in. Obviously, I think the biggest cash drop is likely to be barista. You could do, Coffee Masters, for example, you don't have to bring stuff, which makes it a good competition, because all you have to do is show up. You can bring jugs, and there's actually like rules that prevent you from bringing anything extra except things that you would need to make your signature beverage, and that's fine. But yeah, like the SCA competitions do take a lot of monetary investment unless you already have previous competition stuff. And then, you can also look, 5, maybe 6, 7 years ago in the past, if you do barista, you would still have to make every year you would probably likely be getting new mise en place. And the mise en place isn't cheap. So yeah, I'm doing I've done a bit of everything. I've done brewers, barista. I've done Coffee Masters. I've done latte art, which we got to world level at. I won Coffee Masters twice. And yeah, a bunch of competitions, and also there's all these other side competitions that are also quite fun.
Yeah, and what sort of word of advice, I suppose, for people who are just getting started, or for people who just new or they want to start competing? Because obviously, I appreciate how you've done all these aspects and all these different categories. I think it's quite diverse. I think it's important.
I would just say start doing it. Probably start. I started doing latte art competitions. These days, though, these damn kids, they're so good. I don't think I would be able to compete with them. But that's okay. You just, I think a lot of people sort of look at competitions, they idolize certain people, and then it's like, I'll never be that guy. I don't think I can. From my perspective, I taught myself everything for coffee. So, you can just do that. It takes time. It takes hard work. It's a real grind. but you know, you get better. So, yeah, just get into it.
Yeah,
like, you know, I lost a lot of competitions too. So, you know, I probably competed in more than like 200. No, it'd be like more than 300, 400 competitions. So, yeah,
that's a real big number.
Mm-hmm.
This light is really making me look like a lobster. It's like really important to have a good relationship with losing, and not just losing with feedback from judges, because it could be easier to fall into, you know, dig a hole and, you know, put your head in it when you compete and you lose, or you don't make it through it, or you receive some sort of quite harsh feedback.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. And I've definitely been a competitor that would scrutinize judges too, which, you know, like, I don't think I would ever do that now. But, you know, in the past, when you're talking about like severe investment of time and money, to be told, you know, like, well, nah, it was okay. It's just like, okay, but like, you don't know anything. Like, why are you my peer in this certain situation? So yeah, like, I mean, I would never do that to someone now. I definitely did when I was like younger, and you know, I probably got a bit upset. And I think that's also quite natural, because coffee competitions, especially when it has to do with taste, can be so varied in personal experience, and it would be so difficult to say that, you know, if you have 2 split shots, for example, like 4 espressos delivered by 2 portafilter handles, I mean, how can you say that they're like, each person experienced exactly the same thing? You know, I don't know if you ever have tested, but like the likelihood of 2 espressos having the same TDS from a double portafilter basket was pretty unlikely, even if you were good. Yeah. So by that means, you could say all of them are different, and then play a law of average, where you would say, okay, well, I know that there is deviation. What is like the most useful words that would describe all of the deviation as well, and then you would have an accurate description. But yeah, it depends how you play the game.
Yeah, no, I like that. And before we go actually on, Vag asking, how do you prepare yourself mentally before you step on stage?
I psych myself up all night. It depends like which competition it was. Because I mean, I'm competing. Well, I was competing in this season. I competed in the Brewers Cup for the Netherlands and the Brista, and I was in Cup Tasters. And I made the final for all of them. So, but that I don't think I was. I didn't need to psych myself up for that. I was just ready. The source material all the material that I wrote, I was really comfortable with saying. So since then, I've learned a lot more. So now I'm starting to try to think how can I phrase stuff a little bit better, and that does give me some nervousness, because, you know, if I write a script that I'm happy with, and then on the day it's just like, oh, but yesterday I learned that this happens, and now I'm not so sure I'm so accurate, and that would give me some nervousness. Whereas in the past, I think I would just accept what I knew, and I would deliver that as much as I could, and I would just like kind of, you know, take my nervousness and use that energy to power the delivery of what I know, which is really easy once you can change what that is. Like, you know, when you get like, you're going onto stage, you get butterflies in your stomachs, it's just like, well, you know, if you didn't feel anything, you probably wouldn't want to do this anyway. So if you can turn the energy that you're feeling as like negative into a positive, you're ready, and you can use that energy and put it into a direction, you will probably deliver a good performance.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely. And that was quite extensive.
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's great. That's the whole purpose, adding value for sure. But what I kind of gauge from you is like, a real sense topic of self-discovery. I think that, based on your experiences, you kind of hit, all type of categories of competition. You've worked for several coffee shops and coffee roasters, decided to be like, yep, stuff, I'm going to go and fly 27 hours across the world and live in a country where...
Get, pal. The
Exactly.
longest was like 35 for me, and I was like, I don't want to do that again.
And then you started, you went from working for someone to work for yourself and started a company roasting coffee. Mm-hmm. How important is that discovery journey, which is internal often as well? Because often coffee has a vast range of, not coffee, any industries has a vast range of jobs within. Mm-hmm. Coffee, you can be a barista, a roaster, a sales rep, a blogger, a photographer, a competitor. You can really do lots of different things, but it's important to kind of follow your intuition, and then you're like, okay, I double down here because this is my strengths. This is what I really enjoy.
Well, I mean, it depends. So, I mean, if we're talking about self-discovery, I think, there's always going to be in coffee, like, especially when you start your own business, some level of necessity to learn things. You have to learn, like, how you're going to run sales. You have to learn how you're going to budget things. You're going to have to learn what kind of producer relationship that you can handle for, like, your roastery at the time. If you open a roastery, you're probably just going to work with traders. Because it's too hard to have an origin relationship. It's too much risk. It's a risk for them if they give you a credit line, for example. So it's just not an option. But you should be realistic about it. You have to learn these things to understand, like, how the cogs in the machine work. And in a lot of cases, the direct trade is happening. It has to be financed by another larger company anyway. So it's a direct trade. That said, though, looking at other facets, it could be like, all right, well, do I need like a coffee stylist? Am I good enough to deliver a product that I think represents the company? Looking at like how you're going to do like wholesale portals. Are you going to build your own website? Are you going to learn to build a website first? The list just goes on. And if you're doing it yourself, you can do the route where it's just like, okay, I will pay someone to do the stuff that I'm not good at. But then the likelihood of you saying, well, but if I stack up all the things that I'm bad at, or like things that I don't know, I will have no money. So you would have to learn it. And then through that, you could probably say, all right, these are the things I actually enjoy now because I'm good at them. I just didn't know. Because it's all just like different parts of the business. So I think there's like definitely new things in the roastery that I really enjoy. Obviously I like roasting coffee. That's fun. But also, in 40-degree heat at a big roaster,
yeah, that's not fun.
It's pretty sweaty work.
You don't need the gym. I suppose what I was kind of trying to gauge as well from you is more on a generic way, because I think sometimes we are stuck in positions where we might not be shining because our strengths are not there. And I think it's important that you kind of try all different things until you find that couple of niche, couple of positions, couple of elements that you really, really enjoy and have passions for. If you're not that passionate about latte art, maybe you should start competing for cup tasting. If you're not passionate about competing, then perhaps after trying it, you can find that true call and true passion. By trying, you find your way.
But who's to say that passion is just one thing?
It could be multiple. Yeah.
I really went hard on latte art for a long time, and I really just because I wanted to win so bad. When I was I think it was like a potential win. I got disqualified at the Australians quite a few times. That and with winning scores, so that was funny. And then, yeah, like, I mean, it was just like sheer determination. I think the last year that I did it, that I did win the Australian and went to the Worlds, I was just like, I'm not doing this again. Like, I just, nah, it's too many years. Like, I'm just kind of tired of doing it. You know, and I think, you know, like I should have done more competitions that were different. And I did, like, you know, just, you know, like every year when I would do a CA comps, I would just do latte art. I should have done cup tasters. And then the last year that I competed, yeah, I did way more. I did brewers as well, and I did cup tasters, and latte art. Oh, and coffee and good spirits. So yeah, like, and I should have branched out sooner, or at least done cup tasters for fun. I don't know why when I was younger I thought, you know, maybe I'm not ready for that kind of, you know, competition. But, you know, cup tasters is just a 1 out of 3. So anyone can do cup tasters. Like, it's just, you don't even know how to, like, you don't even need to know, like, the difference of the cup. So, I mean, like, does that make you good at tasting coffee? It does make you good at isolating something different. But even the drink could be just something else, you know? Like, you could just do a 1 out of 3, like, triangulation for anything.
Yeah. I like that take.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically speaking, yeah, anybody could, 100%. And in your words, you know, like you kind of decided to shift away from that university path that you built for yourself. What would you say, kind of, how important is for people to sort of chase their, let's say, coffee dream, but they're perhaps stuck in that good job or in they invested in uni? You know, it's difficult because sometimes they're either stopped by family or society, or you know, it's coffee might not be the right career.
Yeah, I think that you should be realistic as well. I mean, I think making a change into I mean, obviously, like, music is a very hard it's a hard industry, you know, to make money and to have, like, regular work. And I mean, right now, like, you know, buy the albums that are coming on iTunes, man, because that's all that musicians can do. But, you know, like, I think for me, like, I mean, I still play, you know, I just didn't, I think, want to do music professionally. It didn't really seem right. And yeah, there was, like, more fastest coffee that I found more interesting. Although, you know, like, what is it, 12, 13 years later, you know, I'll still pick up, you know, the guitar. I've got, like, a fun collection of amps, and it's still a passion.
Yeah.
I mean, but if it was, like, you know, someone that was going to make the choice to leave, like, something substantial that could set you up for the future, I mean, you can also do coffee as a hobby and then move into coffee, like, when you're ready, when you're set. And why wouldn't you? Because, you know, like, if you do a 9-to-5 job just sitting in an office chair, you can always make coffee. You can always read about coffee. You can always think about coffee. You know, like, you can look at any aspect of coffee and also learn something about it. You know, you can also just go to Barista Hustle and be good. You know, those courses will teach you things. So
absolutely, I think the Colin Harmon story is quite unique, but yet because it happened, it's not impossible. And I think you're right. I mean, gotta be smart. Like, I appreciate the fact that, you know, people gotta pay bills and mortgages and rent and whatever. But I think that as long as you don't abuse for too long of your own happiness, if you really dislike what you're doing, but you're doing it just for money, and you put yourself in a position where you might be able to turn that hobby and passion into, you know, it'll be a big drop. But if if done in a safe way, I suppose, obviously, not just leave everything and go with it.
Oh, that's all I'm saying is that,
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
there's nothing wrong with chasing a dream, but also be, you know, realistic and ready.
100%.
Because, like, you don't want to, you know, chase a dream, fail, and then also be destitute, because that would destroy any person.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, there is, like, some lucrative money in hospitality. But at the same time, I mean, you don't have to work at a cafe to compete in, say, like a latte art throw down.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to compete. You don't have to work in a cafe to do cup tasters. You can just do it. You think you're a good brewer, then do Brewers Cup. You know.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Just read the rules, though. Then you'll read at it. Yeah.
Don't get disqualified.
Yeah, that's it.
Vag is saying, if you're a competitor, active or not, the amount of people that you inspire to actually put the hours and work in what they like is huge.
Let me just read this because it's a long
Yeah.
If you are a competitor, active or not, the amount of people that you inspire to actually put the hours and work in what they like is huge. So you're saying that if you're a competitor,
or not, the amount of
you
people
inspire the people to put the work in. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, Vag, I'm a little bit lost in translation too.
It seems like you're saying both the competitor puts in the work and you inspire people to work harder. But then it also seems like it's oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. Yeah. And for people who are gonna just listen to this, Vag just rectified by saying you can inspire a lot of people if you're a coffee competitor, because then they can see. Yeah, I get it now. You inspire because people can see the hours and work that you put in, especially if you're in the coffee game. Yeah.
It depends. 100%. It depends because a lot of the time you might not see that work. You know, if you put, I mean, some of the stuff that I'm working on, I'm pretty quiet about it, and it's a lot of work, and I'm okay with that. I'm still going to have to sum it up at like, you know, Barista in 15 minutes. Very complex material said simply. So you probably won't see like how much work that is. And I think that goes for a lot of competitors, like, you know, hours and hours of time. I mean, also just learning the routines. Oh, don't worry, Vag. It's all good. Yeah, love you too. So, you know, like, but maybe that looks daunting for people to do competition. Like, it's like, oh, I don't know. Well, you can know. You just ask. A lot of people are just like, oh, I feel like I'm asking a silly question. And it's like, some of those questions bring up the best information. You know, if you really want to be sure and you ask a very precise, accurate question, you know, the answer might just be, we don't know. So go find out, you know.
Yeah.
And then you got something to check out if you're interested in that subject.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of unknowns in coffee still. So.
Oh yeah, and I think that it's just a beautiful part of humans. It's just that we know to not know, in the sense of we are ultimately always wrong, because there's always going to be someone who's going to come and say, hey, well, actually, we can do it this way and that way. And to see how coffee has evolved just in the past 10, 15 years, you know, it's quite, evolution is probably the wrong word, but just to see some changes that have happened in the past few years, it's incredible.
Yeah, the progression is quick.
It
depends where you are in the world, but I think like, I mean, obviously with COVID, things are kind of slowing down, but I think maybe also through COVID that people are taking more care in how they deliver and what they do. So, I mean, it could also be a positive.
100%. And before we read Janina's lovely question, I'll ask you the ritual out of the box question halfway mark.
Right.
Out of the box.
Here we
but
go.
If you could, hey.
Here we go, mate. This is it.
This is it, mate. If you could, who would you like to have dinner with? And it can be anyone. Doesn't have to be in the coffee game.
Anyone that I would like to have coffee with. I mean, sorry.
Dinner. Yeah.
Jeez. I think at the moment, I don't even know if I can answer this. Like, I mean, I could. It has to be an individual.
But no, but I'm curious to whatever. It's fine.
Oh man, I would kill to go back to Australia and have a barbecue with just mates. But absolutely, like, you know, good friends like Matt and Wilkie, and, you know, just like Rob Savage, Jack, Michael Ryan, like old coffee professionals that have been around for a long time, and just sit around and have a beer.
I think that's the part that I can resonate with, because distance is I get you. I appreciate your answer for sure. And Janina's asking, let me read that out loud for you. Okay, she's asking, do you think competition will still be a thing with so many people not even being able to see their families because of COVID, and even coffee producers passing away from it? How can we find value? How can we find value in getting together to brew, and also with the financial strain companies have gone through? So it's, I think, two questions.
It's two questions. Do you think competition will still be a thing? Yes, I think it'll still be a thing. It's the weird global unspoken hierarchy that exists. So it'll probably still be around. COVID's not going to last forever. So, you know, even if it comes back in some sort of limited form, there will be a drive for it. You know, it is about progression. So I think that's pretty likely. Of course, you know, if the SCA, the company itself, is afloat, they will have interest to push the competition. And so it will happen. Yeah, whether it's just like, maybe it would just be like a national based competition in country only, and then you just get final ranks for the worlds based on national achievement or something. That would be really difficult, because you have to have a world accredited judge. But, you know, moving one person is much easier than moving 52 countries worth of teams. So, you know, that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
Then the second question's, with so many people not even being able to see their families because of COVID, and even coffee producers, yeah, I mean, Brazil is one of the worst hit COVID zones in the world, and I was talking to our Brazilian partners last night, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, and then she finished by saying that we can't get together to brew, and also there is a financial strain that companies are going through.
Okay, so it's really three questions. So, how can we find value in coming together to brew? I think you can always find value in coming together to brew. You know, I understand that, you know, Australia, particularly Victoria, is in stage 4 lockdown. So, I mean, that is kind of difficult to just meet up. But it doesn't mean that you can't have discussion. If that's what the real value is, because, you know, two people can have the same coffee and discuss it, and, you know, not have, you could do it remote. You can, yeah, but then also, like, stage 4 lockdowns aren't going to be continuous for a year. I don't think. You know, in the Netherlands, we had like quite a heavy lockdown to begin with, and now we're reaping the benefits of such severe restriction. And now, because people are on holiday and they're moving around a bit more, and the restrictions were getting a little bit lighter, there was like a light resurgence. And so, but the Dutch government, the way they do it is they have like a briefing every week, and they make changes every week. Those changes are law, and, you know, that's it. So if there's new information and, you know, there's something going wrong, or something they've tried that isn't working, they'll scrap it and they'll do something else that is recommended.
Yeah.
So yeah, like mandatory masks outside in certain areas, like where 1.5 meter distancing isn't available, are now mandatory, and there's probably more interesting things to come, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that, I mean, it's not going to be forever. You can still meet with people. As for producers, yeah, I mean, well, it's really difficult because we're talking about different country systems. We're talking about countries that aren't first world countries in a lot of cases, and that makes it really challenging to say, like, well, what about producers? I mean, they'll probably be like, those countries will probably be leaning on a vaccine from the first world to get out. Brazil, I honestly don't know what will happen. There's a lot of like socio-political problems in Brazil. So, you know, like, I mean, that could just go either way. Then, I mean, we could talk about America, but, you know, I think everyone can see how bad it is there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are doing the right thing. Absolutely. But it doesn't account for the people that do the wrong thing. So yeah, like it's a big problem. But I don't think the value is lost, you know, in talking about coffee and enjoying coffee. The real catalyst for like total failure would be if global supply chain of coffee would collapse, and I don't think that will happen. But if it did, that would be like a global catastrophe for coffee.
Yeah. And this is probably where individuals' actions and consumer behaviors come in hand more and more. I think we often forget that in a consumeristic world, the consumers drive the market. So if all of a sudden more and more people are more conscious of what coffee they buy and what companies and what ethos and values behind it, it's not going to necessarily revolutionize the world, but it will have a little bit of impact at origin.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's like the markets are swinging in different directions. So, like, for example, like we lifted into B2C much faster than it wasn't even really a market that we'd looked at. And then, you know, then you're talking about an individual based sale, and then that comes down to their sort of choice on what kind of quality and what kind of like ethics the company has to buy coffee from them. And so, yeah, like, I mean, some companies will do well for B2C. They'll probably just like, I mean, a lot of web shops are doing really great over here. Whereas, over here, you know, a lot of cafes and restaurants, bars are still open. So, you know, the wholesale decline is lesser than, say, you know, Australia. Yeah. So, yeah, it really depends. Like, I mean, each system, each country has had different impact, and I mean, the strain on definitely on Melbourne, I think will come to a head, which is going to be really sad because I think that, you know, maybe the last 5 years, cafes in Melbourne, I think it was like a success rate in first year opening of like 2 out of 10 to continue.
Literally, yeah, I had those numbers.
Might have been 1 out of 10 because it was such a saturated market that, although there were so many skilled people that could probably deliver a good product, there's just way too many cafes. You know, go to like even out of suburb towns and there'd be like 5 cafes, 10 cafes in just one strip. So, you know, that's going to mean that after COVID, there's going to be a lot of closure.
Yeah.
This is really sad. But then on the opposite side of COVID, you're going to have a boom of people that want to invest into something to build that community back. Whether they're the same people is another question. So, I mean, on one side, it's like really bad, and it's really sad. And then the other side is like, it's an opportunity for maybe like people that perhaps wouldn't have had a chance coming into COVID.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, there's always a positive side.
Everything.
Wear a mask, do the right thing, be good,
That's
but
it.
carry on. And yeah, it's hard, but you know.
And for reference to what you mentioned, the stats of 2018 were 6 out of 10 shops used to shut in the first 12 months of trade, and 2 out of the 4 that survived would have shut within the following 12 months. Therefore, in 2 years span, only 20% survived. Those was the numbers 2018.
Yeah.
Melbourne.
I mean, that's 18,
So,
but then like, you know, you had an increase, like, you know, it was 3,500 cafes in 2019.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 100%. So it's interesting.
Like, city of like, what, how many people are in Melbourne? 5 million people? 4.5?
About there, yeah. Nearly
And
5.
you have 3,500 cafes.
That's crazy.
Woo!
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, you know, like the whole thing of like a store selling T-shirts and apparel will have a coffee machine. You literally could just buy it at a barber, like
barber shops. Yeah, I was gonna say barbers.
Like, coffee everywhere.
Yep.
Like, so that was just the cafes, right? That doesn't account for the other stuff.
100%. We're not counting coffee machines.
Yeah, you have restaurants, bars, like you have like nightclubs that probably still have a coffee machine if you felt like a coffee. Oh,
and some of those nightclubs or restaurants have actually good coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
I have seen amazing specialty coffee roasters in clubs and restaurants and all sorts of shops. So yeah, it's very interesting. That's for sure. A bit. And kind of shifting the focus more on what you're doing, because I'm really interested to hear more.
Yeah.
If you could kind of give us a bit of a snapshot of Manhattan, the values behind, the idea behind what you've been doing, what's your goal, but also what's kind of the Netherlands coffee scene like, because I've never been.
So Manhattan, I mean, we've got like a couple of pillars that we sort of do our stuff on. It's like roast, inspire, educate. So we roast good coffee. It's nice. I like it. We source it all ourselves. We've got direct trade partners, legitimate direct trade partners. We fly stuff out of Panama. We work with like a non-profit organization that works with specific Brazilian communities, and they take all the risk in moving all of their coffee to Europe, and that's about as fair as you can get. And then those prices are, Vicky, you're my man. And those prices are then negotiated with the farmer as well. So it's kind of like the transport is free, and then the rates that you pay are basically what you could negotiate at farm gate. So it takes away like FOB and stuff like that. It's a very unique company. As for, you know, Manhattan, I mean, we're primarily actually just a web shop. We don't have a cafe. We don't have a retail point. You can just buy it on the store, or contact us for like wholesale stuff. Educating, I mean, in Rotterdam, we offer mandatory it's mandatory education, because I think here I think like a lot of roasteries will just happily sell coffee to any business, and then they would hire just someone that's a barista, and that would be the end of it. But because on the whole, there's probably more coffee serving businesses than there are well-trained baristas. That means that these businesses require more training to get their staff up to speed to make high quality espresso. And at least here, I want absolutely, mate. at least here, I want to have like a quality of standard so that people can enjoy our coffee, and also the people that make it can enjoy making it. And we all obviously always will be open to our clients like being interested in more information we can give it. There's a plethora of things you can learn about coffee, about the coffees that we sell. The Dutch market is, I mean, it's challenging. I think it's changed a lot. It's definitely changed a lot since I got here. The first time I was here, I think, was 2016. And back then, yeah, it was very, very different, very, very old school. There were a few companies that were doing like a little bit more advanced stuff. I mean, of course, it's very hard to say that, like say that really, because I think that probably applies to a lot of the world outside of Melbourne or Australia, because it's very different and it's a very high speed market. So people are always working on new methodology and ways to improve coffee in Australia all the time, and it's hugely competitive. Whereas I think Holland, there's probably like less market for sale, but there's also quite a lot of roasteries. So, I mean, one of the things that I was really interested in when we started our business was to look at more focusing on global sale and out of country sale, because there was no way we're going to pick up like a huge chunk of the Dutch market. And yeah, I mean, if you have anything specific you want to know about it.
No, that's great. It just paints the picture. I think, I've drunk your coffee several times across the last year and a bit. Yeah. Obviously,
I've seen big shout out to
big shout out to Little Rogue and Shambles, because they always offer international roasters.
Yeah, and really good dude.
Yeah, Leo is a legend. Yeah, yeah, and all the crew are really good people. And then and I think it's pretty cool that it's something that coffee is almost like by default we don't have too much of this global aspect in terms of let's say the wine industry, because once the wine is in a bottle, they ship pallets of it, and it's the same wine in whatever country you're going to drink it, because you just never open it. I mean, there's probably a very small percentage of degree of, cork or whatever that could have a slight variation.
Of course, with coffee, it's so many it wouldn't apply to like a twist up bottle. So
exactly, coffee instead is just, well, I don't need to explain it, but obviously between water, machinery, and skills and age. So I appreciate the fact that you have this a bit of more of a visionary aspect in terms of like, yeah, let's go a little bit more, instead of selling just in Netherlands, let's go global, and we would like for more people to enjoy the coffee. I really appreciate that.
That's the reason why we don't have brew methodology on our bags, because water is the biggest problem. I cannot give you our coffee will taste like something if the water's different. And even in Holland, Holland has 223 reservoirs for the country. In Rotterdam alone, it has 4, and they're all different. So that means custom, like a customized system, and like each individual customer might have a different requirement, from like maybe a solids filter to like a natrium charge filter, like a Brita filter or a BWT, or like maybe they would just work differently for a different place. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard to predict the outcome of our coffee. So when people are like, "Oh, your taste notes are bang on," I'm like, "Well, I don't know that. I'm not sure. I can't be there, Like, where are you? San Francisco? Okay, well, I have no idea. Like,
I appreciate the sincerity and the honesty. And I like that. I think it's super. It's true. It is. Whether we like it or not.
Beat around the bush. It is true. It's just like that is your biggest factor for the final outcome of the taste of the coffee. If you just do the same methodology for everything, then that will be your, and always use the same coffee, then that will be the driver for the outcome.
And I didn't need to be Maxwell Colonna to notice that when my Brita filter, which is just simple standard home filter jug, you know, the filter was off, and for a couple of days I had to go by tap water. You know, yeah, a huge difference. So it's interesting for sure. But Veg is actually asking.
You filter your Melbourne water? Isn't your water at like 40 ppm already? Why would you need to filter it?
Because I like it better. I don't know. I don't know. It's just even the taste of it. Like I'm used to very little chlorine within just when I drink water. Because where I'm from, we don't taste chlorine back in the mountains. And it's like when I came to big cities, it was like, oh, chlorine. What is this? It tastes like.
There's a lot of fluoride and chlorides in Melbourne water, but I think that you experience them more probably because it's so soft.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of nothing as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Interesting water there.
Yeah. And Vag, because I'm very wary of time, I'll squeeze this one through last because I got my last question for you. Oh, who's your biggest inspiration in coffee and life, Ben?
Coffee and life? No, I don't know. Probably the people that I worked with between like 2010 and 2016, I think. You know, that's a lot of great, amazing coffee professionals that have really good insights. I don't know if they're like full inspiration for life stuff, but I think that period I probably learned more about coffee roasting, not coffee roasting, like coffee in general and making coffee better. You know, I could name them, but they know who they are. So, but that period of time is kind of like, I think I was very lucky to work with such committed, knowledgeable humans that are also great friends. So yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
that's really nice. But and I think it's important to have those connections because ultimately coffee, and we skipped the whole part of that kind of questions I had, because coffee is made out of people, and the connection that you make through coffees is just so valuable. And you know, you meet those inspiring people, and
you know, every time that you have a coffee, someone had to like pick that coffee, like someone had to process it, someone had to like sell it. I mean, the selling part is probably the hard part, you know, like doesn't matter like how good you are at processing, if you have no buyer, there's no point. And I'm really lucky in the sense that with Manhattan, we know a lot of the producers by face and name, and good friends with a lot of them. And so, yeah, that's really cool. And for the ones that we don't have that relationship with, I've worked with them in a competition or a professional sort of like capacity in the past. And so I know their products, and, you know, like you don't have to have like a personal relationship with everyone. You know, like some of these farmers have like 80-hectare farms, and they got shit to do, man. Like, you know, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to have me if I could go. But, you know, I am the roaster. I am 50% of the business as well. Esther is the other 50%. And that means that our time is like quite limited. So, you know, even just getting away to do a project coffee at Origin is can be detrimental if we spend too much time away. So whenever I fly and do any of our specialized projects, then it's probably only for a week. I might be able to push it to 2 weeks, but then it gets like quite difficult.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I can't predict the big weeks, you know. I mean, nope. I can try, but you know, not every time.
Ben, thank you for popping by. It was such a pleasure, and time flew. We got probably about 4 minutes left, and really, really appreciative and grateful to have shared this chat and hear your stories and insights. And I'll shoot you later a quick message. But
Sure.
if you could leave us with a bit of your, I guess, final word in terms of your coffee mission and what's next for you. We don't have too much time, but you can leave us with a little bit of I mean, not the top secret stuff.
Yeah, I can't really talk about
that. Don't worry.
No, I don't know if you know anything about that, but good things are coming. Things that will change everything. Yeah, I would say just like keep going strong. I know these times are really hard. You can do it. Just dig deep and keep drinking coffee. If you're out there and you want to learn more about coffee, go and read about it. There's a million ways to get information, and the phone you're watching on is a pretty good start. To learn something, and you don't have to simply focus on competitors and what they've said in the past. Of course, all of that information is always changing all the time because of the progression of time. We might learn something that we think is valuable in the past, and then realize later, well, there's actually another aspect to that determines the outcome. And so this is only one piece of the puzzle. So, you can always just keep diving and keep learning. I told myself, you can do it too.
Thank you. I think I can't top that off. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I think living on that note, it's perfect in terms of exploring. So yeah, thank you heaps, man. Maybe we could do a little Manhattan Roaster tour, virtual tour, or something.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning to be at the roastery, but I slept in because it was so hot last night.
That's fine. Maybe in a couple of months when...
Yeah, it was really, really hot yesterday, and then I just fell asleep. My alarm goes up at 6, and I'm like, snooze!
No, that's good. I think maybe in a couple of months when it's autumn and no longer full-on heat.
Yeah, sure. I can probably just send you a quick walkthrough video, and you can just throw it up if you like.
Sure. Yeah, sweet, man. 100%. You're a legend.
Yeah. See you later, mate.
Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
Ciao. There you have it, guys. We just finished. We're wrapping things up. I think we're about 60 seconds. I'm very thankful that we had a chance to talk to Ben. I am very grateful myself. We keep doing these live streams and podcasts to add value to people, but also in a selfish way, I'm adding value to myself because every person that comes has a story, has an insight, has values to add and to take something out of it and away from it, digest it, process it, do a little bit like coffee, but with knowledge. And it's inspiring to see all different stories. And I think that Ben has a very, very unique story when it comes to, moving overseas and doing all the things that he's done. So if you're new, I really appreciate that you've been here all this time. Please share this. Take a screenshot, share the stories on your Instagram stories or whatever social media platform. If you listen to the podcast, you can do the same. Take a screenshot of the podcast and just upload it and share it with people. Otherwise, a big shout out to, Jules from Brew Methods, Janina, Ben is still here, obviously, but, Tanti, we got Jesse, Coffee Diaries, we got Andre, Vag, Andre, Glenn, good to see you, Abu, Mark, Javi, and everyone else who tuned in the past hour. I really appreciate you all. I'm super grateful for all of you, and just keep safe, stay safe, stay warm if you're in winter, stay cool if you're in summer, and I'll see you next week. We've got another 3 episodes lined up as per usual. I'm pretty sure it's going to be another Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's how I usually try to keep them and lock them in, and I got more and more to come, so don't worry. Today was episode 65. We're gonna keep going until we can. The timer started, so I would love Olivia. Thank you very much. And if you haven't done it yet, this is my last 20 seconds. Share your first sip of coffee when you have it in the morning.
just tag Coffee Fixation or Jared Truby, whoever, and just say, hey, hashtag first sip. It's just a bit of fun, and it creates community and family. That's the goal. So yeah, take it easy.